It was the kind of room that smelled like buttered hope. Sunlight spilled through tall windows, dancing across rows of copper pans, flour-dusted aprons, and the soft, nervous smiles of strangers seated at white-clothed stations, the Tuesday evening community. Cooking class had always drawn an odd mix: lonely retirees, adventurous newlyweds, single parents trying to carve out time just for themselves. But tonight, it was quieter than usual, as if everyone had arrived with a question they didn't want to ask aloud. At the center of the room stood Madame Celeste, the instructor, a woman with eyes like worn velvet and a voice that turned even boiling instructions into poetry. No one quite knew where she came from, only that the community board listed her once a season, and the spaces filled within hours. Her classes were never the same. Some weeks she taught pastry, others rustic stews or delicate sauces, but it was never really about the food. It was about something else, something no one could name until long after the class was over. That's why they came back, again and again. Tonight's menu was simple: roasted tomato bisque, homemade focaccia, and a citrus tart. Comfort food, she called it. But as they chopped and whisked, as rosemary bloomed into the air and spoons clinked in rhythm, something strange began to happen. The woman on Station 5, who had barely spoken since the divorce, laughed. Just once, but loud enough to turn a few heads. The older man near the back, who had written novelist on his name tag, but hadn't he written a word in years, suddenly found himself humming the song his wife used to play while making breakfast. And at the front, a teenager to cool, to guarded, wearing sleeves long enough to cover every memory she didn't want seen, asked if she could stay late and learn how to make the dough rise faster. Madame Celeste never acknowledged it. She never paused or smiled in that knowing way that adults do when something emotional slips into the room. She just continued, gently correcting posture, sliding spice jars toward hesitant hands, asking, "What are you tasting for?" like it was a deeper question than anyone realized. Then came the final part of every class, the communal meal. No one sat where they started. By the time the tart was served, zesty and soft, trembling at the edges like a secret, everyone had shifted. Conversations flowed. Someone suggested a Sunday potluck. Someone else offered to bring wine next time. It was only after the plates had been cleared and the aprons folded that they realized something unusual. The recipe cards, the ones left at each station at the beginning of class, were different. No one had the same version. Some had added ingredients, others had notes scribbled in a looping hand for sore hands. Add honey. Don't forget your mother's thyme. The best kind of salt is the kind you earn. And then the twist. When they went to thank her, to ask about future classes, or simply say goodbye, Madame Celeste was gone. Not just out of the room, gone entirely. The name on the board had vanished. The sign-up page led nowhere. The kitchen staff claimed there had never been a class booked for that night. But the leftovers remained, warm, real, and every participant, though confused, left with something they hadn't arrived with. A likeness, a recipe for something deeper than soup or tarts. Over the years, the students scattered. Some opened cafes. One rekindled a marriage. The novelist finished a book. The teenager started her own cooking channel called Salt and Silence and mentioned a mysterious teacher in her first video. No one ever saw Madame Celeste again. But every now and then, in small towns and cities alike, stories pop up of a woman with velvet eyes and a voice like steam, who teaches one perfect class and disappears by dessert. And those who were lucky enough to learn from her never forget the first question she asked. Not what do you want to cook, but what are you really hungry for?